Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have so much fun today because we're going to talk about meeting cool people, and we're going to be talking with a cool person about how to do that. So please join me in welcoming Ely Delaney to our program today. Welcome, Ely.
Thanks, Deb, for having me here. I am having so much fun. We've already been chatting, having a good time. So we're going to have a blast.
I know. You know, we were talking about the fact that I really should do an outtakes reel because that's where some of the juiciest parts of the conversation come in. And if I could do it and not identify who the guest was, that'd probably be the best thing. But, we really do. We get to know each other at the start of the program. And that is what we're going to be talking about today, is how to really get to know people and work with them and build those relationships. But before we jump in, let me tell people just a little bit about you. So Ely Delaney is the co-founder of Purple Night Marketing, an education company designed to help entrepreneurs go from surviving to thriving in any economy. He's an Amazon bestseller with his 2 books, Marketing Tidbits and Networking Tidbits. With a passion for connecting people, his best-selling training course, Networking Like a Rockstar, has over 1,350 students registered globally. Ely helps speakers, authors, and coaches automate their flow to grow their business without having to have an MBA from MIT. He's the guy to help you build a 24/7 automated system that will turn you into a follow-up rock star. So again, Ely, welcome.
Thanks so much. It's a lot of fun doing this kind of stuff and having conversations with cool people. I mean, that's my thing more than anything else is let's look at the fact that if business is not done by businesses, we don't buy from companies, we buy from people. Those people are people we know, like, and trust. Right. And that is really where, sadly, a lot of people tend to miss the boat because they want to get more customers. And I challenge the people that I meet to not think about customers because customers are transactional. Walmart has customers.
Right.
But we have clients. And clients come to us as a trusted resource. And somebody who is looking out for their best interest. And it's a totally different relationship when you shift that mindset. And so that's where a lot of the stuff that we talk about and what we help our clients with comes kind of based around that.
Right. That's kind of why I've stopped using the words target market. It's not somebody we're throwing a dart at trying to hit. It is something that we're nurturing, that we're building, that we're developing, and the target tends to be shooting with a shotgun, and hoping you hit something as opposed to something where you're focused, and because we can market to everybody. And I joke about this a lot on the program that, if you ask somebody who their target market is and they say everyone, no, even a Walmart, a Starbucks, any of those companies, they're not trying to reach everyone. They know who their niche is, and that's what we really need to do. And it is about how to develop those relationships. But I'm curious, I always want to know, how did you get to where you are today? Because I looked on your LinkedIn profile, of course, and your initial degree was in music. And so this is very different. But how did you get to where you are today?
So going through high school, I was actually into music. I was a musician. And I had this really funny thing called stage fright. And so that stopped me from continuing the music world. I mean, I was actually classically trained in voice. I did Latin and I don't even remember what else. It was a long time ago. But from there, once I actually got to the performance part, I was terrified. Lo and behold, now I'm a speaker, which I find hilarious. I'm still not sure how that transition ended up working.
Where did that switch get flipped?
Yeah. But part of it is also, I am very strategic about the presentation and the speaking, and it's a conversation where that is a different style than music would be in that aspect. But I went from that to working behind the scenes, doing stage work, doing lighting, audio work, things like that. And then this funny thing happened where I was actually a stagehand working concerts in Phoenix, Arizona, and the transmission went out of my truck, meaning I had no transportation to go to any of the places I was supposed to go. And we did not have a good public transportation, set up there. So I walked into a small computer shop and said, I know a little bit about computers. With you guys by chance hiring? And they said, here's an application. I filled it out, I think on a Friday or Saturday. No, it was Saturday. It was on a Saturday. I brought it back on Sunday and they said, can you start tomorrow? And so I went in there and they got me into building computers, doing the back end stuff. And they were an internet provider. And from there, I realized that we had websites that people were coming to us. This is early on. This is like 95-ish maybe. And people were coming to us saying, can you host our company website? And we're like, oh yeah, no problem. Well, can you build it for us? And they're like, we can probably figure it out. And lo and behold, Eli volunteers to learn HTML, learns graphic design, ends up falling in love with it and starting his own company.
Cool.
And so we did that for a long time. That's been over 25 years now, that company. We did really well from the point of me starting off by myself, working out of my dining room, to opening up an office, had 5 employees, we're closing 3 to 5 contracts a week. Wow. And it was all done from networking. That really is the big piece of it. It was all the people that I connected to. I had the very first thing of all people, my mom suggested, if you're looking for clients, have you thought about going to a chamber of commerce? And I was like, a what? I had no clue what that was.
You want me to go talk to people?
It's funny because I went in and I had a meeting with one of the guys he's the marketing director at one of the local chambers. And he said, here's the biggest thing is that you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And I took that to heart. And I went to every meeting I could possibly go to. I went to every ribbon cutting. I followed up with everybody that I had, built the relationships, and my business exploded. And so that business, I went for a long time. When I got to the point where we were doing so well, we opened up the office, had the employees totally going crazy. And then I realized I really didn't like having employees or an office. And so made a shift in my business. We had been teaching people how to do some basic marketing stuff, because that's how I grew my business. And then that's where I realized I actually love the teaching side. And that's where that transition went, which ultimately has evolved to where we are today. We have clients all over the globe, having a lot of fun teaching them how they can build better relationships with their prospects, their clients, their referral partners, and more importantly, create those into lifelong relationships. You follow up with them from day one to the point where they're not with you anymore. Right.
Well, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, that little thing called pandemic. Originally we thought, we won't be meeting with people for a couple weeks, maybe a month. And
it's the longest 2 weeks of my life.
Right. I know, and then especially when things shut down hard and it was, you are not going out, and unless it was something essential, and obviously it varied depending on where you were, but for the most part, and then, here in the United States, of course, we didn't shut down quite as hard as some of the other places, but, we shut down but we're now in month 5, 6. I mean, I know somebody who's actually done a day calendar. It's pretty funny. I'm like, oh my God, how long have we been doing this?
Somebody actually asked me literally last week, and it was like, what are we doing this for, like 3 months now? They're like, no, it's been 5, Eli. I'm like, oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, because now it's commonplace. I mean, we've adapted to it. But the hard part is we are not going out. We're not meeting. We're not going to our networking things. And even if you are going to physically network to an event, which they've started kind of having those back here in Atlanta again, We can have up to 50 people. That's what we are at this moment. Has
Very
to be,
cool.
either socially distanced or outside. And so they've been doing things outside. But, a big part of networking is going up, shaking hands,
Yeah.
doing, maybe even hugging, depending on who it is. And we're not doing that. We're not having the one-on-ones. There's no place to have one-on-ones. When Starbucks doesn't let you in, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
So, that is what is the difficult thing right now. So how do we kind of bridge that gap and take it to, to still be connecting with people?
Yeah, I totally understand that. And it's funny because when everything really hit, so a lot of our clients are speakers, and they're speaking on stages all over the world sometimes.
Right.
And then obviously
And
everything
then
happened,
poof,
and poof,
they
all of a
can't
sudden
get
their
there,
business
and
is
they're not
gone.
having the conventions.
Yeah. And so the funny thing is, when that happened, I was frustrated because I had like 5 major all booked up, ready to go, including one to Cancun. So let me tell you, I was very disappointed. But I had actually took a point about 7 years ago where I actually hit a low point in my life, and I had hit some major depression, and I breathing a virtual coffee date. I would actually go, just like I have right here, my coffee. This isn't my cup. Yes, I'm being horrible for the environment because it's a recyclable cup, or this is a paper cup. But the point is that I will go and I will have my coffee and I bring it back. So you and I are having a coffee date.
Right.
And then we used video conferencing, which we didn't have Zoom back then.
Right. It would have probably been Skype, maybe.
We've done Skype, Google Hangouts. I had Meeting Burner, I think, was before that. I mean, we've done the transition, and Zoom managed to take over the world, which is awesome, because they've given us an amazing tool. But it lets us have that face-to-face as best we can in the current situation. And so I did this, and when everything all happened this time, I was like, all right, so I'm just going back to where I was a couple of years ago. The only difference is I just have to work a little bit harder to keep that momentum that I would be doing if I was going to events and speaking. Now, people that know me from the speaking world, I'm known as a pretty good speaker, which I appreciate. But what I'm actually known for is my connections with the people. And I would actually get a group to get together, and we would go out and have dinner. And I would take these people, we would sit down, we'd get to know each other, really have a deep conversation. And I did this like everywhere I went. That's where the meet cool people thing that that I use really came from, was that. I mean, best thing in the world, go have steak and mojitos, right? And do it with good friends, and these are the people that I say, I love to have dinner with my friends and my soon to be friends. And the fun thing is, that's how my clients, those people became clients because of doing that. Well, now we can't do that. And I'm a huge hugger, so that drives me nuts that I can't go give somebody a hug. But we have situations where we can have this kind of conversation over a Zoom chat and be real, be one-on-one, still get to know each other, and have our coffee while we're doing it,
Or our water.
Or our water, yeah. I'm pretty much until like 4:00 in the afternoon coffee kind of guy. But what we'll do with that is the tool to get us started, but we're not going to the events to network because that's not possible right now. What we need to do, this is where the effort has to come in, is we have to build that relationship in other means. And we have tools it's a double-edged sword, social media. Social media is one of the hardest things that's ever created, because it's caused a lot of controversy over what's been going on in the world. But at the same time, it also lets us become more connected.
Right.
If we're looking for somebody that can help us with a project, we can put it out into our network of people and ask, and we'll get responses. We can ask for recommendations. And I can go into a group and somebody can ask a question in that group. And if I know the answer to it, doesn't matter if it's my product or not, I can turn around and just answer that person. And a great example of how I've done this is I had a group several years ago that somebody said, I'm considering switching to my email system over to Infusionsoft. I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Infusionsoft is an email marketing platform, CRM for your customer relation stuff. And there were things, and of course, some people say, oh, it's so awful, it's the worst thing in the world, it's super expensive, and I have some people say, I love it, it's good, but none of these were really helpful bits of information. They were basic opinions. There was no real meat to the response. And I sat down and I wrote, and it took me maybe 5 minutes. It wasn't long, but I wrote this email that says, okay, first off, we actually are Infusionsoft users. We've been with them forever. We've actually been with them for, at the time, I think it was like 9 years or something like that, because it's been several years ago. And I said, here's the things that this is why I love it so much and why I will never go someplace else. For me, it's literally does the work of 2 full-time employees. That it just automatically does stuff because we build it to do that. That's what it's designed for. But I would explain all these things. Then I also gave him the flip side. It's like, here's the things you need to be aware of before you sign up, and, be prepared for these things. There's a steep learning curve. It's not the easiest. I hope this is helpful. If you need any help, if you have any questions or anything, just shoot me a message. I'd be happy to jump on a Zoom chat and talk to you. Okay. So this was, it was pretty lengthy, definitely way longer than anybody else's response. But then about 2 weeks later, I get this message from him. He's like, hey, Eli, I don't know if you remember, but you answered this question in the group about Infusionsoft. I do have to say thank you so much for taking the time, because that was an amazing response. I'm wondering if you'd still be willing to have that call with me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem.
Sure.
So I jump on the call, and we ended up talking, and that was, like I said, 3-4 years ago, something like that. He became a client of ours and is still a client of ours. He pays us every single month to help him with his Infusionsoft. He went from not even being a client yet, just thinking about pulling the switch, to us helping him and being a long-term client. And it all was because I took the time to actually give him some value. And it took me 5 minutes. That's it.
And while you were giving him that value, and it's funny because we were having a discussion, before the program started about, kind of the same subject. You did not say, oh, and by the way, we can do
there
this
were
for
some
you.
of those too. Some people were doing that, and I didn't. I was like, you know what? If you got any questions, let me know.
Right. And because, if somebody's responding, they're probably going to, they might be able to pitch something to you. But if you get whacked over the head with it right up front, there's a reason that they used to be called snake oil salesmen, right? And now they've evolved to used car salesmen, which I don't even, in CarMax and this whole pandemic, do people go to a car dealership anymore? We've lost our used car salesmen. But anyhow, it's squirrel. It's one of those things where when you're helpful, with no expectation that it's going to go anywhere besides just, hey, I can help you out, then that's what people remember. And one of the other things that we were talking about before the program is the lovely and wonderful and talented Bob Berg. Because Bob, that's one of the things that he really talks about. I know you've got your book right there.
I got my book
go-giver
right here,
mentality,
right next to my desk.
And and it's so interesting because that's the thing that Bob really talks about is, you help people out, you provide that extra value. And it's funny, I actually had him on the program a couple of times. And one of the things I asked him was, but what if somebody goes too far? And he said, there is a line, and you have to know what that line is to be helpful, to be friendly, to give that value without being taken advantage of. And so that's where then, we've also had people, and we hear this all the time with people who will say, Eli, let's go to coffee. I want to pick your brain.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not going anywhere. You might not even get a free cup of coffee because if you got there first, you paid for your own coffee. And
I got something to share with that one.
Oh yeah. And I love people who, I tell them, that's where I love being able to do it online because that's, I'm not driving. I'm not spending my time going somewhere. I might have my cup of coffee, but it's my own. But I tell people, what's in here is valuable. And it took me a long time to develop it, right or wrong, and so I'm happy to help to a point, but then there is a fee, and that's kind of sometimes the tricky thing, but that's where then, okay, this is a great relationship and they're going to be a great client. If they get to the point of, gee, I don't want to talk to you anymore because it's not free, well, then bid them adieu.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the fun thing about that, though, is so years and years ago, when I actually launched this company and we started creating courses for small businesses, it was really interesting. So I had somebody who had signed up for every free thing I had, but she was also local. She was in my area. And so she signed up for all my free reports and my guides and my free webinars. And if I had a workshop, she was always there, and she just absorbed all of my information, but it was always the free stuff. Out of the blue, one day I get a message. She goes, "Hey, Eli, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to sit down and let me buy you lunch." I'm like, all right. It was actually, she wasn't that far away from me. So we found a place that was pretty close. I would have been happy hanging out there anyway. So I'm like, it's okay. I'll do that. I walked in the door expecting absolutely nothing but lunch out of it. And so we sit down and we talk, and she told me where she was with her business. And I gave her some suggestions and some ideas of what could help her out. And then she goes, "Okay, if I were to sign up for one of your programs, which one do you think I should start with?" And so I took out a piece of paper and I basically said, where you are right now, based on our conversation, you want to start here. And I literally listed out our programs in the order that she should get them in. That way I gave her basically a roadmap of like, if you want to jump on board and enroll in our stuff, here's the order that I would recommend for where you are. Honestly, expecting not really anything. Maybe she might go to that first level.
Thinking, well, she was just kind of being polite.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what I honestly thought it was. But then she stops, she looks at me, she goes, "So is there any possibility do you have any kind of like a package deal for all of them?" I'm like, "Well, haven't done that before."
Oh, we do now.
We do now. Yeah. So I figured it out and I gave her a discount. She goes, "Okay." And she pulled out her credit card right there.
Cool.
Yeah. So you never know what's going to happen in that conversation. So I always challenge people, take the time. Obviously, we're all busy. Our time is valuable. So you can't give it all away for free, but don't discount people based on where you think they are, because you really don't know. And you've got people like that who just totally blew me away. I walked in the door expecting nothing to ever happen with it. And she became an immediate, instant, great client of mine. But then on the flip side, you sometimes also have people who, they won't become clients for whatever reason. Doesn't matter what it is. It may be that they can't afford it. Sometimes that is actually legit. Sometimes it's they don't think that they need it. Sometimes they think that they can do more on their own, whatever. Doesn't really matter what the excuse is. But those people can also become great advocates for you. I have had people refer me business literally 10, 15 years down the road. I've had people come back to me because of my long-term follow-up and staying in touch with them all the time, where they've come back to me to become clients 5 and 10 years down the road. And so never discount anybody based on where they are right now, because you never know what's going to change tomorrow.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was back in Colorado, I was working with the foundation, with some of the folks at the foundation of the University of Colorado, which is one of the schools that I went to. And I was telling him, you need to acknowledge every gift you get.
Yes.
And I said, now I understand there's a really big difference between $100 donor and $1 million donor. And I said, but the thing is that $100 donor might be testing you out to see, what are you going to get? And they understand, if you're a fairly small donor to something like that, they're not expecting that you're going to get bells and whistles and, a personalized tour and, autographed footballs or, whatever it is. An email, thank you, might, or a card, even though it's, a card that goes to everybody and the machine signed it or whatever. But you never want to discount those small donors, because they might really be the big donor just wanting to see what you're going to do. And so the same thing goes with your product and your service. I tell people, always have inexpensive and free items. Because there are some people who just can't afford it, obviously depending on what you do, and you have to watch that, but, and that's just kind of a goodwill thing. You've got the things that are there for the people who just can't afford it, especially if what you're offering is a higher ticket price. But they're going to dabble their toes. They're going to, oh, what is this like? Which is why a lot of people write books. Let's be honest. You read the book and then you think, oh, I really want to work with Ely because he had such great information. I spent the $15 to buy the book. Now I'm going to spend whatever to do the programs. And so, but it can be an ebook. It can be all sorts of things. But give them something, and maybe it is that you spend hour with them at some restaurant, somewhere where you can sit outside, or you Our friend Brian Basilico has spoken several times.
Brian's an awesome dude.
We've got all sorts of different topics that we talk about, and for example, the one next week that we're going to be talking about is how to brag about yourself.
Okay.
And so we do 15 minutes with some Q&A. But I know that even just in this time span since March, we have had people who have connected and have done business outside of the group. There are several people who have said, you're the only people I see all week, which that's a little scary. But it is, it's just a way to give back. Yeah.
Well, and the fun thing about it is when you can see the results that happen if you're doing it right, is that there's a great example we had when one gal came in and she literally, we're probably maybe 6 weeks into this, she had gotten really sucked into doing it and loved the group. It took over so well. And she ended up coming on and saying, okay, I just want to give you guys an update. My business has tripled.
Wow.
Since joining this group. And I had somebody else come in. Actually, the first gal that I had told you about, I was having the depression mode. And because of us being able to just be there to help support her, some of it was advice stuff, but a lot of it was just she needed somebody a shoulder to cry on for a while. And the cool thing is that over time we helped her get her through that, and then things started opening back up. We helped her with some stuff with some ideas on her online store and things like that. And just about 4 weeks ago, she came back and reported that they had their best week ever.
Wow.
Still under lockdown.
Yeah.
So,
and making those connections. One of the people in my group is somebody who I have known since I was probably six or seven. She was a year ahead of me in school. Now, we went to a very small high school. I had 32 in my graduating class. So you knew everybody.
Mine. I think mine was like 50 or 60.
Right. Yeah. You were in Idaho. I was in Colorado. So we had these very small classes. And she and I reconnected on Facebook, because, and I have not seen her maybe once since she graduated from high school, and because, she went away and so, and she's back in our small town. And, we reconnected on Facebook, probably several years ago, but then she was needing some marketing assistance. And so, this online networking thing. And I think it was probably one of the times when I had Brian speak. And so just reconnecting with her has made it worth it, because it's been so much fun. Will we work together? Probably not. I mean, it's just different enough with what we do, but at the same point, it's just been so cool to reconnect with her. But she has taken things that she has learned from what we've talked about and put them to use in what she does. Awesome. And that's what we're there for. Yeah,
that is cool. And that's, the funny thing is that, I mean, I tell people, it's like, okay, I have a business. I am in business to make money. I am a capitalist. I like to get paid.
Right. We have bills we have to pay.
We have bills to pay. And I like toys. I'm not going to hide. I like having toys, and I like to go spending money on fun stuff. But there are times where you can see that impact. And that is the satisfaction. That is the return, because everything is a yin yang relationship. two sides of the coin. It's a give take. We have to have both sides. There has to be a giver, there has to be a taker. And if one doesn't exist, the other one can't exist. And so by being able to give, they're receiving, but their excitement and their success, that is them giving me the appreciation. And so now I'm receiving that.
Right.
And now we come full circle. And so for me, sometimes getting paid is the result, and that is what I'm looking for. And sometimes the smile on my face, because I know I helped make an impact on their lives, is that reward.
Right.
You know, and so having that's an important piece to be in as well.
Right. And I think especially now when we're not going out and seeing people, you know, but that brings me to my next question, because, you know, we talked about the fact that, you know, not everyone is your client. Not everyone is a good contact. So how do we meet the cool people, you know, the right people? Because obviously there's lots of people we could be connecting with. How do we connect with the people that we're going to find beneficial to be in a friendship, a business relationship with, whatever?
Okay. Yeah. The very first thing is, what's your outcome? What do you want to have happen? So when I go to an event, and we'll use live events and virtual events, it's the same thing, really.
And we will get back to live events.
We will get to live events. It may be different. It probably will be, but either way, the concept, the methodology is the same. You need to walk in the room having a desired outcome. What is it you're looking for? And I always tell people, first and foremost, don't go in looking for clients.
Right.
Don't go in the door looking for business, because you'll look like the sleazy car salesman. You've always been that. I've actually literally been to events where we were like finishing up the event, somebody walked up behind a friend of mine, stuck his business, like reached over his shoulder, stuck his business card in his pocket and said, "I didn't want to leave without you getting my card. Have a good one. Call me."
And the guy went, "Trash."
Exactly. He literally pulled it out of his pocket, ripped it up, and tossed it in the trash. But it's just like instantly you get that icky feeling from that. So that's what people, a lot of times they come in looking, they feel that way because they basically put off a vibe of desperation, because it's all about, can you buy my stuff? Can you buy my stuff? Can you buy my stuff? And that's the wrong way to come about it. What I do is I actually go, okay, what is the biggest thing that I'm looking for in this group? And a lot of times I'm looking for partnerships. I'm looking for people that I can build a relationship with, that preferably somebody who might work with my clients as well. So we can work together and make a beneficial situation to help their clients in that situation, and that I can help them as well. That's a key point. You got to come from a place of service first. The second thing that I will go through is sometimes I'm in a room because I'm looking for help with something. So I will say, okay, here's the pieces that I'm looking for. And maybe I need to find the best web designer that I could work with that can help me create a better converting landing page. Okay. So I will actually look for events that might attract that kind of person.
Okay.
And so knowing your intentions right out of the gate before you ever walk in a door is very, very powerful. Also, doing the research once you've done that to see, is there a way for me to know who else has been in that room or is going to be in that room? And you can actually find those people and reach out to them ahead of time. I've actually done that a lot when we've done networking stuff, where I will see who's there, and then I send them messages on Facebook or LinkedIn and say, hey there, we're going to be at this event together next week. I just wanted to reach out ahead of time and say, I definitely want to talk to you when we get there.
Oh yeah.
So
I love it when events, especially if they're so organized that they do the list of attendees and their LinkedIn profile. You know, because some people really do want to keep Facebook personal, but and man, I'll go through and just, you know, looking forward to, you know, being there. Let's connect in advance on LinkedIn and Yeah.
Well, and the key to it is also look at who can you help as well. Because sometimes the cool thing is you can walk into a room and you can literally walk into a room where the people at that event are your perfect clients.
Right.
So you walk in saying, okay, the end result will be more clients, but I'm going to walk in and my goal is to give one tip that will help 10 people in that room. And so when I talk to people, I will actually be like, hey, you know what? Have you tried this? And I'll just give them, you know, just a 30-second, 1 minute kind of thing. It's like, go here, do this, yada, yada, yada kind of thing. You know, like one of them that I love doing is I always talk about, you know, we have these wonderful things, these things called phones, which is really interesting because they work really well to watch cat videos and see what's going on Facebook. But when you actually use it for a phone, it weighs like 10,000 pounds, right? But here's something that's really cool with them. A lot of people don't realize this, but you can actually send a video from your phone to Facebook Messenger. So you can actually send a personalized message to other people. And the cool thing about it, it can't be long. So you can't take a lot of time on it. It's like 15 seconds.
So it's, hey, it was great to meet you.
Exactly. Yeah. So I will send a video like that, and it'll be like, you know, hey there, it was great meeting you at XYZ event. I hope you had a great time. I had a great time as well. I would love to catch up with you next week.
Period.
That's it. Yeah. Or birthdays. I love doing this on birthdays. I will actually send a personalized birthday message to people. And I mean, this is something, it's a free tool. It's like something, you already have it. It's already on your phone.
You're sitting there waiting to do something. Do something.
I will literally do it. I've actually done many of them. So my hobby is archery. It's actually a great form of meditation, by the way. But I used to, when we actually could still go indoors, I would go to one of the local archery shops, and I usually was always there before the employees were. So I'm hanging out in my car waiting for them to unlock the doors. And I'm like, okay, well, whose birthday is going on today? And so I would sit there and I would do a couple of these, and it didn't matter if there was 2 or 3 or if there was 10 of them. They're literally 15 seconds a piece. So in 5 minutes, I could send personalized birthday messages to people, and those give the most amazing responses. People flip out because they don't get that kind of stuff.
Well, and now that we're not commuting to wherever, we've got lots of time, which is funny because people are like, okay, well, I used to commute for 2 hours, but that time got filled up fast. But yeah, you know, it's all about looking for those little bits of time where you can do that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's things like that make a difference. Now, all of this has to go on the next piece, which is your follow-up after the fact. And this is where we really shine. This is what our company does for
and
our
it's
business.
where a lot of people falter.
Yep. You have to remember that we live in a very ADD world and a very me world.
Squirrel.
Exactly. And we are bombarded by, you know, it used to say we were bombarded by 10,000 different marketing messages every day. I think it's probably closer to 100,000 now.
Oh yeah.
You know, just from everything. I mean, you can literally scroll down Facebook alone and hit 200 or 300 messages. Some of them advertising, some people pitching their stuff, whatever. So we have to, it's our job to stay in front of the people that we meet. And so you've got to have a follow-up plan in place. And this is the other piece that I always tell people: before you ever go, what is the next step? Think of the next step. And I go back to one of my very first, he was actually my first mentor in the internet marketing space, Armin Morin. And the most powerful thing I ever learned from him, and this is our basis of our business is based around these 3 words: next logical step. And that next logical step is, once this happens, what's next? And once that happens, what's next? And you plan that out. So I will be like, okay, I'm going to an event. I'm speaking at an event because I do a lot of speaking. And what's next? Well, I need to follow up with everybody that was there and thank them for watching my presentation. And if they respond, what's next? Well, let's get them to book a call with me. I want to chat with them. If they don't respond, I'm still going to do the same thing. I'm going to respond, hey, by the way, I haven't heard back from you yet, but I want to check in. I would love to chat with you. Do you have time next week? And then we get it on the calendar. So I want to book a call with them so I can talk to them, because I am all about the relationships. And so whether what we have is a good fit for their business or not is irrelevant. I'm going to help them one way or another. And that's why I go into it with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, you know, I want to have a chat with you. I want to get to know more about you, your business. What are you working on?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything I can help you with? By the way, I make it very pointed. This is not a sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
If we have the conversation and it's a good fit, we will have that conversation.
Right.
But this is about me helping you any
Mm-hmm.
way I can. And if that means I end up introducing you to somebody else that can help you, I am more than happy to do so.
Right. That's a win-win.
Exactly. Yeah. And by doing that, I mean, my calendar stays booked really strong.
Mm-hmm.
I went to one event in Miami, and literally before I left the event, there were 50-ish people in the room. 10 of those people were on my calendar booked for the next week.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got them on the calendar to have that conversation right away.
Right.
And
if you waited a week, they're going to go, who is Ely? Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you do that as quickly as possible, but I make it about the connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, if I don't hear from them, I'll follow back up every once in a while. Now I have systems in place that do this automatically for me for the most part. You know, one of the things that I'll do is I will recommend, I'll recommend books. Great example was you and I were talking about Bob and the Go Giver book, right? Mm-hmm. So for anybody that's listening to this, if you haven't read the Go Giver book, please go do it.
Go read the Go Giver book by Bob Berg. Yes.
Yeah. It's an awesome, awesome book. And I keep this by my desk on purpose because I talk about this so much. Mm-hmm. It is one of my go-tos that, you know, we're on this call right now. Mm-hmm. I'm telling everybody, go read this book. It's an amazing book. Well, I do that with people anyway. I'm like, if you want to grow your business, you need to learn how to build better relationship karma.
Right. And you're not saying, and here's my affiliate link to buy Bob's book.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Now, when I send it in an email, yes, it is my affiliate link. But I mean,
but you're not whacking them over the head with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just like, here's a link. I'm going to give them the link either way. So I might as well go ahead and use my affiliate link and I'll make a whole 10 cents. Right. So I don't really care about the affiliate link. It's just there. But it is about, go check out this book. This is why I love it so much. Let me know what you think after you read it. Now, this could be a face-to-face conversation. This could be if somebody, I mean, and I'm putting this out here, if anybody reads that book because of this conversation that you and I are having right now, I want them to reach out to me and tell me what their experience was. What did they think of it? Because now we can have a conversation. We can have a cool conversation because we can talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
And if I send it in an email, I always tell people, by the way, once you've read it, reply back to me. Let me know what you thought. And here's the fun thing about it is, so I have that written out because I was writing that manually to people over and over and over and over again. Right. And then I realized that's silly. We have cool technology out there.
We can automate things.
We can automate things. And I'm an automation guy. I'm a total geek when it comes to that stuff. So we now have a system that is automated. And that's one of the things that I recommend. Now, here's the fun thing about this is that when you put that kind of stuff in place, it's not just a one-time thing. This is stuff that'll work for you for literally years and years and years. I'm sure you've probably read The Greatest Salesman of the World, right? Ogmandino, another amazing book, highly recommend it. Right. So I had somebody reply back to me about 4 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And she was somebody I actually knew back from my previous design company. She actually was a photographer. She had taken pictures of me for that first company, actually. And she's been doing her stuff, but she'd been struggling a bit. And she messages me and she goes, Ely, I want to thank you so much for recommending The Greatest Salesman book. I've really been in a dark place, and I seriously was considering just giving it all up and getting a job. And you sent this over to me. I picked up the book. I read it this weekend. It's totally re-energized me. I'm ready to get out there and rock this. Thank you so much. So I just helped save her business by recommending a book. And by the way, I had written that email 5 years prior.
Yeah. You know, and of course, that's the key is the automation. You know, why cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste? You know, and I mean, it is the thing is you need to write it in a way so that it doesn't seem like, oh my gosh, this is the same email that Ely has been sending out for 5 years. You know, and double check to make sure that you're not getting dear name.
Oh,
right? How
no.
many times I got a
So,
text like that the other day. It was for
mhm.
selling a brain boosting pill, and it said in brackets, state. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, your brain boosting pill ain't working.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like you need to pop a couple extra of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because that's one of the things too is think about you've got to think about the experience and one of the things I tell people like I love email marketing. That is
Mhm.
my game.
Right. Mhm.
I'm an email copywriter. But I really structured about that relationship and how do you
Mhm.
make it
Mhm.
feel like it is a real.
Mhm.
I opened up Gmail and I sent this to you. That's what you
Mhm.
always want it to feel like.
Right.
Whether you wrote it to them today
Mhm.
or you wrote it and put it into an autoresponder a
Mhm.
decade ago, doesn't
Mhm.
matter. It should have the same feel. You're
Mhm.
never going to lie. You never try to make it sound like I thought of you today. No, you didn't. You
No.
wrote
Yeah.
this a decade ago because
Mhm.
people see through that.
Mhm.
But if you write it in a way that's very personal,
Mhm.
simple, and evergreen, it makes
Mhm.
a
Right.
huge difference.
So it's usually going
So
to be
one of the
pretty
things
short.
uh-huh. Yeah. So my emails and anybody who signs up for anything of mine, you'll see this. You
Mhm.
can, go check out what I do. It's basically hey there. First off, I don't personalize it with a name because generally you don't necessarily do that.
Right.
I am one that when I see somebody in person, a lot of times if I see you, I'm going to walk up to you, hey there, how's it going?
Mhm.
Because that's my personality.
Right.
Well, that's that's authentically
Mhm. Mhm.
me. So when I put an email out, you would think that if I said, hey there, it's
Mhm.
going to be the same.
Right.
And so that's why I do it that way.
Mhm.
But then it also doesn't allow the system to blow up
Right.
and go, hey, first name,
Mhm. Right.
any of that kind
Or
of stuff.
you're like,
But it's,
I have a sign up email address.
mm-hmm,
And so, hey, sign up. Well, that's going to
yep,
show. Or if they've taken my name off of LinkedIn, they're going to say Deborah.
mm-hmm,
That's the
yep,
only place I use Deborah. And so I'm like, you pulled my name off of LinkedIn.
yep. Yeah. And you can catch that kind of stuff. And sometimes I'll see it and I'll let it slip by. But a lot
Mhm.
of times I'm like, oh, now I see where that came from.
Mhm.
And the fun thing about it is if you do this right, number one is they won't care.
Right.
They really won't.
Mhm.
Some people will know.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
you
they
don't have
know.
time to be sending 200 emails every day.
Exactly. It's really funny. I actually had somebody went through one of my workshops and we were teaching email marketing and teaching this stuff exactly.
Mhm.
And he emails me after one of my emails and goes, hey there, I just wanted to check in and did you send this one just to me or did you send this
Mhm.
to everybody? Because I know I just went through your workshop and that's what you teach and stuff, but it seemed like it was really for me.
Mhm.
And of course the very key point, it needs to come back to you so you
Right.
can reply.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I replied back to him and I said, of course it was just to you and
Mhm.
5,000 other people,
Mhm.
and I made
Mhm.
the font really small just to joke with him and have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but make it you, make it
Mhm.
personal and share tidbits of information.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be yours. The cool thing
Right.
is that there's nothing wrong with saying, I have this thing, you should check
Mhm.
it out,
Right.
but mix it in
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
other value that's not
Right.
self-serving.
Mhm.
That's why I like to do books. I'll do videos that I see
Mhm.
off of YouTube, articles.
You
I'll
can
do stuff
recommend
to
podcasts.
podcasts. I love doing podcasts. Yeah. Well, and that's a key thing too. Is like if you have a podcast, I'm sure you already do this, but you could take this and you can send an email out talking about an interview you did with,
Mhm.
say, Bob. Okay, we'll just use him as an example.
Mhm.
I'm going to reach out to him after this and say, you need to listen to this episode because we totally talk about how
Yes.
awesome you are, Bob.
Mhm.
So, you basically say, I did this interview with Bob
Mhm.
and this is what it was about.
Mhm.
I thought you might find it valuable.
Mhm.
He's got so much powerful information.
Right.
Let me know what you think.
Mhm.
So yes, it's going back to your podcast, but
Mhm.
you're highlighting Bob.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it makes Bob look cool and it's serving to help them
Right.
using him and his
Mhm.
content. And of course, if they like it, hopefully they'll turn around and they'll subscribe and all that
Mhm.
kind of fun stuff too.
Right.
But that isn't as self-serving as, you know what, you should check out my book. This chapter is so great because
Mhm.
all of a sudden they're like, okay, yeah, she just wants me to buy her
Right.
book.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how legit the
Mhm.
actual, you have
Right.
this problem and this chapter will solve
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
It still comes back to you.
Mhm.
And so by switching that up and
Mhm.
highlighting other people and other
Mhm.
people's books and their content and stuff like that, when you do have something important to promote
Mhm.
that is yours,
Right.
it's not like is it's not like, oh yeah, we're going to do,
Mm-hmm.
they're pitching me again. Because we see that all the time. I have
Mm-hmm.
some people that, I mean, I have somebody right now is trying to get me to sponsor an event. I haven't heard from her for over a year.
Oh,
And all of a sudden she's
she
sending me
wants
these
money.
emails. She wants money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she also didn't respond to any of the emails that I had sent her when
Mm-hmm.
we were
Right. So
trying to work
there
together
be no
years ago.
relationship. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it just blows me away because it's like out of the blue, all of a sudden, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is a great event. You should sponsor it. And I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
first off, I'm not the target market for that audience. The
Right.
second thing, I haven't heard from you forever. There's
Mm-hmm.
no
Mm-hmm.
relationship here.
Right.
And
Well,
that's the key point.
and it could have just taken maybe 1 or 2 emails. The first one would have been, hey, Eli, haven't been in touch for a while. What have you been up to?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then if you respond, that's the thing, you go back and if you didn't respond, okay, then she should have probably, but yeah, it's those quick little, and we were talking about this before the program, the be polite type of things. Let's be polite, let's be nice, let's show that we're concerned about somebody, even though we may or may not be. I mean, but it only takes a couple seconds to say, hey, Eli, how you been? And especially now, oh my gosh, how are you handling the pandemic? Do you have any tips that you could share?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. One of the things that I tell clients on a regular basis, like literally like weekly, I'm telling people, okay, right now is a perfect time for you to rebuild those relationships. I want you to go through and pick 5 clients of yours randomly and just call them.
Right.
Just say, I just want to check in, see how you're doing. Is there anything I can help you with?
Yeah.
And by the way, when they come back and say, I don't need your services right now, your response is, that's not what I asked.
Right.
I asked, what do you need help with right now? I did not say my services.
Right.
And
because
that alone,
it could be they need books, they need whatever.
Yeah. And that alone will make a huge difference by the relationship. You do that once a week, 5 people. And most of them, you're going to get voicemail anyway. So all you're doing is just calling them and saying, hey, just want to check in on you, see how you're doing. What's up? Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you out. That's literally use that as a script, right?
Oh yeah.
And then also 5 people that that are just in your network. Same thing. Just doing that alone is so powerful. And the cool thing is I actually used an actual strategy that we had for that, where we had a client who had, she had not done a good job of staying in touch with her list at all. Like not even just pitching them. She was doing nothing with them.
Oh, that'd be me. I'll admit it.
Okay. Okay. So here's a gimme. Here's a script for you. I like to call this the slacker. And you basically, the subject line is, I have been such a slacker.
So I'm owning it. I'm owning it.
Owning it right out of the gate. Exactly. And then you write, this is the script in the emails. Hey there. I have been such a slacker. I haven't stayed in touch with you like I should. And I know I've done a poor job of that. I apologize. And I promise to do better. I wanted to check in and see how you're doing. What are you up to? And what do you need help with?
Yeah.
I had a client who,
I've got a new product. I've got a new service. None of that.
Yep. Because the cool thing is a lot of people will respond back talking about, hey, this is what's been going on. And then that's your opportunity to do that if it comes into play. But here's the fun thing about this. I had one client that we did that with, and we did actually a series because we wanted to say, okay, if they don't respond, we need to send 2 more emails out. So we had 3 emails set up and ready to go. Her first email, 100% response, which never happens.
Right.
She made $12,000 by the end of the week.
Holy cow.
Because people said, thank you so much for reaching out. I've been meaning to reach out to you too. And I keep forgetting when you're open. We have a new project. Let's talk. By the end of the week, she had made $12,000. I don't even know what the end results of the number was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because there would have been more.
Yeah. And all she did, there was no pitch. It was all about, I am sorry. I've done a poor job of staying in touch with you. I want to make it up to you. What are you up to? How can I help? That's really what it was all about. Right. And it's just phenomenal how simple this is. But when you do it right, it can be super powerful. And then, of course, you got to have that long term. And when I say long term, I'm talking about as long as possible. I have a campaign that runs for 3 years automatically.
Wow.
When you come into my system, it works for 3 years. You're getting tips, tricks, resources, even some shares of stuff that is mine that you can go check out. I like to say my running joke is the fact I could go outside and get hit by a bus today. I'm still going to sell you stuff for 3 more years.
You're going to be like, how's this working, Eli?
Yeah. You know, and some of them wouldn't even know. Yeah. They're like, okay, yeah, he's still doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
But that's when you do it right, and we have the tools and technology out there, that's what can really make a difference, because we are human beings. We will drop the ball. I mean, you just admitted that you are one of them that doesn't stay in touch with your list that you should. Now, if you had a system in place to just do that, then you know, if I get busy and I forget, or like at one point, 7 years ago, I ended up in the hospital and my entire business shut down for 30 days. It was a pretty freaked out thing. Luckily, everything was good. But, you know, if you get sick, something happens, your kids need to you know, your kids have something going on, your dog gets sick, whatever, it doesn't matter what the reason is, you are going to need to take time off. Go on vacation. I know, the weird thing that entrepreneurs, we tend to forget about sometimes. You want to go on vacation. It doesn't matter what it is, or, you know, the basics of you're a human being and you forget, you'll get busy and you forget, you know, something is happening. Or you're just a slacker. Right. That's why it's like a program like this is designed for the slackers of the world, because you put in the effort up front and it works forever. Because that campaign, that 3-year campaign, I created that after my hospital bed. So that was 6.5-ish years ago. And it runs for 3 years automatically. And it's been running ever since. People start at the beginning, no matter where they are. And guess what? At the end, it just loops back to the beginning again, because they're not going to remember.
They don't remember what they got 3 years ago. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, oh my gosh, Eli. See, we could talk forever. This is why I set a timer, because I know we would just keep going on forever. But I'm guessing that we have people who are going, okay, this sounds good, but I have no idea what to do, how to set it up. So how do they contact you? How do they get your information? You know, all of that good stuff.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for letting me share. Very simple. I have a website. It's like a hub for anything you want to find with me. You want to connect with me in the social media world, any of that kind of stuff. Connectwithely.com. And it's ELY. That's a very important distinction, because most people spell it with an I. So connectwithely.com. And when you go there, I do have my magic script is something that I give away that if you want to check it out, feel free to sign up for that. But you can connect with all my social media sites. And more importantly, there is a button, bottom right-hand corner. There's a big star. And that is a way you can actually book a call with me, because I am approachable. I love to talk to people. You got to just do me a favor. You can just pick a time on the calendar. Let's talk. But most importantly, let me know in the notes that you heard me on the show. Cool. And same thing if you connect with me on social media. This is another last tip. If you connect with somebody online, send them a message to go with it. Don't just hit the add friend button.
Yeah. Don't just send the LinkedIn request. Fill out why.
I heard you on Deb's show. That I had a good time. I would love to chat with you. Now you've gone to the top of the list, because to me, that's a referral. And I would much rather have that conversation first. And I'm more likely to hit that yes button right away than somebody who's just random and I don't know what they're trying to sell me from Nigeria.
Yeah, because that's probably it. They're trying to sell to
exactly.
you.
So yeah, I'm totally an open book. I love to chat with people. I have a lot of fun with it. So just go grab a spot on my calendar and let's talk. That's
great.
You know, if it's a good fit, we can help you out. If I don't think it's a good fit, then I will have other conversations and I'll point you in a direction that can help you out.
Yeah.
That's all it's about.
Yeah. You know, I love referring to other people. You know, just because something might not work well, you know, I can probably refer you to somebody else. You know, and then that comes back to that win-win situation.
Yeah.
Well, oh my gosh, Eli, this really has been so much fun, and we'll have to have you on again, because I want to talk more in depth about how to do email campaigns, because I think a lot of people realize they're very beneficial. But we get 200 a day that, you know, come popping in, and they are so impersonal. You know, they are so, you know, too overly automated, you know, things like that. So I want to talk about a lot of the basics is how to set up a true personal type of campaign. So we'll definitely have you on again for that.
Anytime.
But, you know, so that'll be great. But until then, Do you have any final words that you want to leave everybody with?
The most important thing, we've got a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. And there's going to be other crazy stuff happening again. The world goes through shifts every few years. It happens. I've been through 3 of them now that are from my adult life while I've been in business. Went through 9/11, the 2008 crash, and then now what's going on right now. As entrepreneurs, like I said earlier, our job is to solve problems. And 2 things with that. Number 1, get around people that can support you. A lot of times those are other entrepreneurs because they're going through the same kind of crazy stuff you are. Our friends and our family a lot of times don't understand what we do. We are totally foreign aliens to them. So find your people, build that community. If you're looking for community, reach out to me. I'm happy to have you come join us for one of our things. Cool. The second thing is, this is my hashtag that I created from the standpoint of what's happened with the pandemic. No time for fear. If you stay busy, you stay working on, focus on the goal. What is it you're really after, and how are you helping more people? The more people you help, the bigger the impact's going to be, the bigger ripple you'll create. So no time for fear. If you're doing the right thing that you should be, you won't get scared because you don't have time for it. Plain and simple.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, Eli, I can't wait to talk again. I think this is going to be so much fun. And until then, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a great conversation with Ely Delaney, and everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.